Hi guys, it's Sarah, Last in Reviews. I am here with Matt Bondurant, if I'm saying your last name
That's
correctly.
right, yeah.
He wrote The Wettest County in the World, which is the novel that Lawless, the movie, is based on. So, Matt, thank you for sitting down with us.
Sure, thanks for having me.
This is only the second time I've interviewed an author, and as a lover of books, it's always nice to get that perspective of what the author thinks of the movie and how that whole process went, because this is your baby. Mm-hmm. What was it like? I mean, what was the process that this went through to become a film? How long did it take?
Well, we sold the rights in 2008 before the book even came out. And pretty soon, within a few months, Columbia Pictures, bought it. This was all, when this stuff is going on, it's all very remote. It's basically a series of agents talking to each other, and then I get a phone call every once in a while or email saying, hey, so-and-so, this is what's happening. But it didn't feel like something I was particularly a part of. But then Columbia bought it, which was great, and I thought, okay, well, they sold film rights, but that doesn't mean it's going to be made. Most likely it won't, because most books don't. I know plenty of writers that have had their film rights, and it doesn't mean anything. But a few months after that, and once you get around about 2010, when Hillcoat and Cave and Shia LaBeouf are attached, that gets exciting, of course. But we kind of go through a series of different actors, like Ryan Gosling was attached at one point, Scarlett Johansson, and then they all kind of dropped off, and then Columbia dropped the whole thing. So there was like there's this moment in early 2010 where it was sort of like we went to turnaround, and it looked dark at that point, dire, and so. I was thinking, okay, well, that's what happens. It's going to go away. But Shia LaBeouf and Hillcoat and Cave stuck with it. I actually had email conversations with Hillcoat and of course talking with a lot of the producers, and then Red Wagon, these other independent producers came and snapped it up. So it became an independent film, which was trickier as far as financing. So there was a lot of back and forth. But fortunately for me, the agents were keeping me out of that loop for the most part. They were just kind of letting me know when something good was happening, So I was trying to separate myself from it too, and not think about it too much. I mean, I was finishing my next novel that just came out in January, The Night Swimmer, which is out.
I saw that in the bookstore.
Yeah. There's a new paperback version they put out in conjunction with this. But so I was invested in a whole another world, this other novel and everything else. So it was just something going on in the background. And then in 2011, really when it started to take off, when Tom Hardy got involved, he got freed up to do it, and then Chastain and everybody else jumped in, and all of a sudden we had this kind of dream cast. And then they're saying, okay, we found a location, we're going to do it in Georgia, and this all happened very quickly, and there's like a 14-week shoot or something. And really, 2011, they just really wrapped this thing up pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. So, and I understand it for movie terms, it was pretty quick. I got to speak with a variety of the actors and with Hillcoat, and I went out to the set for a couple of days. My dad and I saw, so I didn't have any contractual input in the thing. I wasn't, I was as a person that is relatively unknown when the contract was done. They didn't grant me any rights, and I don't think we really even asked for it.
Okay.
Yeah, and to some degree, I didn't really want any. I think it was I was very content with just letting somebody else.
Really?
Yeah, because that separates me from the responsibility of the thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to make films. I don't know. I like films, and I see a lot of films, and I think I'm a well-versed film viewer.
Yeah.
And I can critique a film to some degree, but as far as making one or knowing what goes into producing or promoting or what I never written a screenplay. But anyway, none of that stuff even entered into it, because I assumed, rightly so, that nobody would want me involved. Why would they? And I think that was a good choice. But what's fortunate for me is that it was very early. It became clear, when Hillcoat and these guys are attached to it, and they're the ones doing it. I felt very secure in that because I respect their work. I mean, The Road, it just came out 2008. I loved that film. I saw The Proposition, thought it was fantastic. So I was like, okay, this guy's gonna be fine, So I felt very comfortable, like, yeah, he's gonna make a cool film, and I don't need to be, messing around with it. And I can understand how that happens. So when I was on the set for 2 days, by the end of the second day, I was starting to interject my opinion. I was telling my dad, "Is like, we gotta get out of here," because I'm sitting there watching these things, and I was like, he's holding them like that. Like, why don't you have him? These producers are like, all right, yeah. So it was I think it was better because I think as a novelist. I'm used to complete godlike control. I mean, that's what we do is and so if I'm going to be involved in something, the collaborative aspects of filmmaking, which is this massive collaboration, is harder for me probably. I don't know. I haven't tried it really yet, but I think it'd be harder for me to get into because I'm so used to controlling things entirely. But in the end, it turned out really well, and I'm very pleased with my role. They were inclusive, and they didn't have to be. They were generous in including me, contacting me, letting me know what's going on, but they didn't have to at all. So I'm lucky that way. Yeah, very lucky.
I read the first chapter last night, and you mentioned yesterday on the Q&A, that they did leave some characters out, some backstory. Obviously, the pig thing is in here at the beginning, but it's a little different. And then, there's other family members and everything. I mean, and you spoke about I just started the first chapter, or the second chapter with that writer.
Sherwood Anderson,
Yeah. I mean, you said you didn't really care, you handed it over to these people, but, I mean, was there things that you really wish were in there or at least mentioned?
Well, I wish the story of Sherwood Anderson. I think it's a great one and it's a good one, and I wish that could have worked its way in. I think that would have been difficult, considering. Other than that, I mean, most of the central things, the big scenes, in the book are all in the film. There's a lot of secondary level scenes, particularly there's stuff with Howard. And in his relationship with his wife, and really just that goes much more deeper into how Howard came to be the way that he is, things like that, and that's not in the film, and that's a shame. And I would have liked for probably all the things that I wish were in the film have to do with different types of character development, sort of helping explain
how people
are. How they are, because but the film, you can't do that. You have to get us right to these characters as they are right now. I mean, and the Charlie Rakes character in the film, he's immediately this villainous person, and in the book has a more complicated portrait of this man who came to be this way. But if they would have made the film about 60 hours long, we could have had it all in. It would have been great. But that's so. I'm aware enough of. And also, I've read so many novels that have been adapted to films, as probably you have, and everybody, So you're aware of these things and how they happen and what usually happens. So I was prepared that they were going to really just cut out and take a couple things and sort of amplify them, and that would be it. So I wasn't really that shocked or surprised or even disappointed. I think I prepared myself mentally for a while, anticipating. Yeah. So that when I saw the first script or when I saw the first film and the absence of things. It's okay, It's a different medium. I mean, the medium that the film has to work with is just limiting in ways that novels aren't, and they have to translate emotion and drama in a way that's very direct and visceral and obvious at times. That's just the nature of a film, and so I don't have a problem with that at all.
So you didn't have a cameo in this like some authors do?
No, you know what? I didn't even think about that. I was on the set. The set, it was very. I was just trying to stay out of people's way for the most part because it was very intense, and I think because the budget was small. This is a
small. You wouldn't think it was small, seeing the film.
Way it looks, yeah. Well, and I think that's some of this. The way they cut it down to the essential things, and then they invested the money in those essential scenes and made those scenes work. You know what I mean? So like. That's part of the whole. Yeah. That's part of the process of the stuff that that's missing. Like I also have to do that calculation. Like it would have been nice to have had all these other scenes or these scenes, but it's money. And I know that Hilco told me that nighttime shooting and snow and all the environmental stuff. Because like in the book, there's a lot of night, there's a lot of snow, there's a lot of just weather stuff going on, and less so in the film. And that they came down to a money decision, nothing to do with I mean So when I was there, though, it was just very tight. It was a tight ship, and things where people were running around and they were shooting, and it was just, it never even dawned on me. And also I didn't really know Hilco or others that well at that point, whereas, since then I've had dinner with them and I hung out with them. So now I would feel comfortable now being like, hey, John, come on. just put me in a hat. Let's do it.
Yeah.
But at the time, I didn't even. My dad was there. I wish we should have put my dad in it.
Yeah, that would have been great.
Yeah, but you know, I was trying to. My dad and I both were trying to be very respectful of what these guys were doing, and I did not want to, you know, because they invited us out of their own generosity. They didn't, you know, and so I was just trying to be totally respectful of what they're doing and stay out of people's hair and just be like, hey, this is wonderful. Just trying to watch these other artists at work doing what they do, you know. And I don't have any special claim on that. I don't have the experience or the knowledge base or the skill set to talk to anybody about how films are made. You know what I mean? So I was kind of just sort of hands off and just observing, and it was a great experience, you know. But if it happens again, if we ever do another film again,
have any of your other books been optioned yet?
Mm-mm. No, the third one, The Night Swimmer, out in paperback now, is being shopped around. You know, it's being shopped around. I mean, but. They're both contemporary tales. They're not historical novels. They're not based on true stories like this. I mean, this has a couple of sort of elements that make it more exciting and palatable for a film. But you know, a lot of the trademark things though that are in Wettest County are you know, I mean, I have the same style of writing and the way I depict characters and a lot of the scenes and things. So you know, you never know. You know, the Night Swimmer is more of a love story. It's about a young couple that goes to live in this little coastal town in Ireland and. And so it's a different. It's not. There's not so much throat cutting and shooting and stuff going on, but it's about sort of a lot about Irish history and long distance open water swimming and goats.
Goats.
And you know, and it's about the disillusion of a marriage of a young American couple, and it's certainly the most personal thing I've ever written. And I think it's the best thing I've written, and so I hope people like it. But as far as film, you know, I don't know. I mean, I you know. Yes, people ask me sometimes, would you want to do it again? Of course, the answer is always yes. I mean, I would always welcome the attention that stuff like this brings. As far as my books, you know, for the most part, I'm a what they call a mid-list literary writer. That you know, my books have sold reasonably well. We got reasonable reviews and things, but it's not as if I'm a household name or make a living off my books even. So. If it's anything that brings more readers into its films, especially if it's films like this. I mean, I'm very lucky. This is a good film. It's actually a good film, and it's a good adaptation. It's a sort of pretty faithful adaptations considering novel film adaptations. You know, it's a wonderful situation. So if I could even have something, you know, half this good for the next book, as far as a film or something, I would gladly take it. Of course, yeah.
What about, just lastly, Lawless? How are you with that title?
I like other things, you know, it's become very clear to me now, and maybe it's clear to you now too, that I tend to do lots of psychological preparation for an anticipation of things. I'm constantly planning. And so I knew early on that the Wettest County in the World was a poor title for a film. It sounds funny. It's kind of a mouthful. Also, it sounds vaguely pornographic. Or directly pornographic, actually, and it's a great title for a novel. Not so good for a film. And then they shorted it to Wettest County, and that didn't sound very good either. And then they said, well, we need to switch it because wet county, dry county doesn't mean anything in Europe, and so that's confusing to people in Europe. Yeah, and you know, international sales are crucial, especially for an independent film. So they wanted something brief and direct, and they wanted something that was going to attract young audiences and sort of translate very directly into, you know. And you know, it was the title of Terrence Malick's new film that he was going to be called Lawless. Did you hear this story? Yeah, Terrence Malick's new film was actually on IMDb and everything. It was as Lawless. Hillcoat liked that title, asked Malick if he could have it. Malick gave it to him.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So I always get film people occasionally that will ask me about Lawless as a title, like serious film people, and they'll be like, "So what do you think about Lawless title?" And I can tell they don't like it, and they want me to say I don't like it, and then I'll say, "Did you know that was Terrence Malick's title of his film?" And they're like, "Oh." Like, all of a sudden it's a great title, right? Because it's Malick.
It's Malick.
Yeah. So, you know, but titles, you know, after writing 3 books and going through title and cover art and all these kinds of things you do, these minor battles, I care a lot less about them now because it's become clear to me that that it's the contents of the movie itself, and if it's a good movie, it's well received, it's a great movie, all of a sudden the title's going to seem genius, and if it's a terrible movie, the title's going to seem dumb, and that's just the way it goes. Same with books. You know, I mean, there's plenty of movies out there that just have these weird, ridiculous titles, but we're totally accepting of it and think it's great because it's a great film.
Yeah.
And I think Lawless is perfectly fine for that, you know.
Yeah.
And I think the way they've put it together as far as the marketing, it looks pretty cool. You know, it looks attractive to me. I would want to see it. So it's good.
Thank you, Matt, for sitting down
Sure,
with us for
thank you.
Lawless.
Thank you.
And read The Wettest County in the World, and The Night Swimmer is your other book that's out right now.
It is, yes.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.